These compliance tips are being offered by Hans Hansen and Judy Holmes of the Compliance Clinic. In this strategy session, we're going to talk about a very important aspect of wage and hour law. And as always, I want to remind you, it's not legal advice and doesn't create an attorney-client relationship. Wage and hour law is a real hot topic right now. The Department of Labor has stepped up its enforcement efforts significantly in several key areas. Use of independent contractors, exempt, non-exempt status designations, using unpaid interns, making timekeeping errors, and not paying for off-the-clock work. These are all key risk areas, and we're going to be talking about them in future webinars. But the one I want to concentrate on today is the use of independent contractors. Why? Well, this is a quote from the Department of Labor. Misclassification of workers as independent contractors presents one of the most serious problems facing workers, employers, and the entire economy. And to that end, the Department of Labor has partnered with 32 states. They're working together with the federal government, sharing information and coordinating enforcement efforts to, as they say, combat misclassification. And last year alone, the Wage and Hour Division conducted investigations that resulted in more than $74 million having to be paid back by employers in back wages. Wow. Why should anyone use an independent contractor? Well, as every employer knows, it has its advantages. I mean, it gives you flexibility. You can hire someone on an as-needed basis if you've got a short-term crunch, or if you need expertise for a particular project. You don't have to pay, or you don't have to promise continued employment. You have to pay benefits like you do for your employees, like insurance, paid leave. If you do that for your employees, you don't need to do it for your independent contractors. You don't have to pay workers' comp. You don't have to pay taxes. And you don't have to pay into state unemployment funds. So if it's that easy, why ever have an employee? Why not just designate everyone as an independent contractor? Well, is it really that easy? Of course, the Department of Labor says no. In fact, if you misclassify a worker as an independent contractor, you may be liable for past state and federal income taxes, past FICA contributions, past federal unemployment insurance, state unemployment insurance, workers' comp payments, and then interest on all those past due payments. Civil and criminal penalties may be imposed, and of course there's always an attorney out there lurking to file a class action against an employer who misclassifies workers. So you want to do it right, and you want to know who qualifies as an independent contractor. Unfortunately, there's no one definition, no litmus test to make sure that you've designated someone correctly. The IRS has its factors, most states have their own factors, and the federal government, the Department of Wage and Hour, has its factors. So let's concentrate on the Wage and Hour Division of the federal government. And we'll talk about the factors that they use to determine whether someone should be designated as an employee or as an independent contractor. First, the extent to which the work performed is an integral part of the employer's business. So for most of you, you run healthcare practices. That's your business. But let's say you hire somebody, an IT guy who's an IT expert, and he comes in every once in a while. You pay him, let's say, every month to come in and service your computers. He'll update them. Your employees can call him if there's a glitch. He updates whatever he needs to do. Well, that's not an integral part of your business, your healthcare business. So he might be considered an independent contractor. But let's take another example. Let's say Mary, your favorite, best front office employee, decides after her maternity leave she doesn't want to come back as an employee. So you say, okay, well, I'll just pay you maybe every week. Come in during crunch times and just sit at the front desk and do what you did before, do the filing, answer the phone, and just help us when we need extra help. Well, just calling her an independent contractor and paying her a flat fee probably isn't going to make her considered an independent contractor because she is an integral part of your business. In fact, she's doing the same job that the person sitting next to her is. She's filing, she's answering the phone, she's doing the same thing your employees are. So she'd more likely be considered a part-time employee and not an independent contractor. Another couple of factors is whether the worker's managerial skills affect his or her opportunity for profit or loss. So let's take your IT guy. You pay him every month to come in. If he's really good, if he's really crackerjack, he can come in. He's great with computers. He's likely to make a nice profit. But if he bungles things and comes in and ends up spending a whole lot of time, he is probably going to operate as a loss. Whereas if you designate computer work to an employee, he gets paid overtime or he gets paid by the hour, regardless of whether he's good at it or not. That person never suffers a financial loss. So that's what they mean by that designation. Another factor, the worker's skill and initiative. And do they operate as a separate business? So if you go through an audit, that auditor, that investigator may ask you, okay, you've designated this person as an independent contractor. Let me see his website. Where is his office? Is he incorporated? Does he have other clients? In other words, does he operate as a separate business? Permanency of the relationship is another factor, but it is not determinative. It's just one factor. The sixth factor is how much control do you as an employer exercise over that worker? Can the worker, is he free to work for other people? Can he hire helpers to work alongside him? Can he set his own hours? Can he work from anywhere? Then he's more likely to be considered an independent contractor. Although because of more and more employers are going to flex time, flexible work hours, and allowing people to work at home, those last two factors are certainly not determinative. Just because somebody can work at home or has flexible hours doesn't make them an independent contractor. All of these factors are taken into consideration. So just to kind of summarize, courts and the Department of Labor use basically an economic realities test to determine whether somebody would be classified appropriately as an independent contractor. They focus on whether the worker is economically dependent on the employer. Are they in a business that would survive the termination of the relationship? And again, do they have their own website, their own business? Are they incorporated? Do they have other clients? Does the contractor derive some business income from other sources? And is that person not in the same business as the employer? So back to the IT guy again. If you fire him tomorrow, well, he's probably got other clients. He derives income from other sources. He's not economically totally dependent on you. Whereas Mary, if you say we don't need you anymore, she is economically dependent on you. So if you tell her you don't need her anymore, she doesn't derive business income from other sources. And so she's most likely going to be considered a part-time employee. All right, so how do you protect your practice if you use independent contractors? Well, we have 3 tips for you. First, conduct a self-audit. Go through some of those things that we've talked about in this webinar. See if with what you, with the people that you have designated as independent contractors, can you justify it if you were going to be audited or investigated by the Department of Labor? Second, have a written independent contractor contract and have a good one. It's worth having a really good employment attorney draw one up for you. I've seen them that people have downloaded off the internet, and it's just almost better not to have one at all if it's badly written. Third, if you're unsure of any aspect of using an independent contractor, get legal help. It's money well worth spent. Please visit us at thecomplianceclinic.com. And if you have any questions or comments, or if you'd like us to address any particular issue in future webinars or podcasts or blogs, contact us at the emails that we've listed on this screen. And I want to thank you, and I'll see you in future webinars.